like a lot of the suggestions that they put in here about how to better our facilities or the education. What I have a big problem with is the Trojan Horse that is in the guidance curriculum, which hides critical race theory ideologies and is already banned in the social emotional education or this mental health. Yet the DD2 school board continues to push forward inside these ESSER fund proposals. I'd like to specifically address the guidance counselor's SEL roadmap for reopening schools and its clear support of the Black Lives Matter organization and its agenda. I quote from this, "We face the layered impact of school closures, COVID-19 economic crisis, and persistent racial inequities exacerbated by the pandemic, amplified by the nationwide mobilization for racial justice reflected in the Black Lives Matter movement." End quote. This roadmap for reopening our schools continues its focus on these ideologies in its instructions for teachers and counselors to make our children, and I quote again from the curriculum, identify opportunities for innovation and anti-racist practices, and to discuss the impact of the pandemic and racial inequity, and to elevate student voices in reflecting and acting on data. End quote. The CRT ideology of equity over equality is divisive and banned from being taught in our schools. I object to it being put in the ESSER funds plan under social emotional education, mental health, or any other guise. The key to inclusion is through equality. We are one race, the human race. This curriculum divides children from each other and divides children from their parents. Additionally, guidance counselors and teachers are encouraged to shove this belief system down our children's throat all day long. I quote from the curriculum, integrating and aligning SEL with other priorities, including academics, is important because it optimally supports social and emotional development throughout the school day. The rates for students failing in South Carolina and across this country are through the roof. And your reopening plan wants school staff to focus throughout the day on indoctrinating social ideologies rather than educating the children. You need to leave the social and emotional discussions for inside the home to be taught according to each family's personal values. Focus the school staff on teaching, reading, writing, math, and science. You need to fix your failure by getting every single student back on track in academics. I do not consent to my children participating in it, and I do not consent to pay for it with my tax dollars or these ESSER funds. My question to you, are you going to provide a form to allow children to opt out of guidance and mental health, and are you going to weed out the CRT ideologies out of the systems already in place? I know you've been ignoring my emails. You have no answer? Are you going to allow parents to opt their own children out of mental health services when you are not a mental health facility? Are you going to allow children the form?
I can tell you that it's, as far as a board is concerned, when we look at the curriculum, we definitely look at that kind of thing, and we are looking at that. We're addressing the policies that are revolving around that. And I do believe that we also have mental health. Parents can opt out of that. It is something that is not solely decided among our teachers and our staff. That if a parent does wish for their child not to be enrolled in a mental health within our school system, then they certainly can do that. That is certainly a choice of yours.
What about when they're inside of our classrooms, sorting our children into small groups and having discussions within the classrooms instead of teaching them?
We do not do that as far as a mental health is concerned. That is done on an individual basis. Mental health is addressed in their mental health office. with the specific child. It is not done in a group setting.
The SEL model and the South Carolina model both say that the teachers are evaluating them for particular problems at home, and they are separating them into different groups within the class and visiting them individually to discuss these matters. In the ASDA, I believe is the acronym for it, and the SEL, it says they're specifically talking about equity and race.
Well, we definitely need to look into that, Mr. Pye. That is something we need to look into, and we need to be informed about that as far as the board is concerned, as well as you normally do inform us about all that stuff. But as far as we know as a board, that is not something that is happening in our class. We teach the state standards, and it is not in a state standard that those type of things are taught unless it's a newly developed state standard that we're not aware of. We'll talk about it at that time.
And my next question is, if it is being taught in the classes and it is being in the schools, are you going to provide a specific way for us to report and penalize the staff members teaching it?
You absolutely have the opportunity, or have the advantage, to call any one of us board members and talk to any one of us board members at any time, email us at any time, anything that's going on within our school system that you are not, that is not up to the standards. Exactly. It's not what the standards are. First thing you do, there is a protocol. The first thing that you do is you report it to your principal. You talk to your teacher, then you go to your principal. If you do not get what you feel that you should be getting from them, then you contact one of us, and then in return we will address it with Mr. Pye, and Mr. Pye will address it with the specific school or the specific principal, and then it's taken care of that way. We as board members don't go to the individual. We go to Mr. Pye, and then Mr. Pye will address it with them.
And I appreciate teachers who do not teach that in their classes, regardless of whether they're allowed to or not. Because there is a lot of teachers that say, I'm not going to do it even if I'm allowed to. But we can't allow any of the ones to do it. We have to remove it.
Policy committee, and the policy committee is meeting tomorrow, and we want to check into things like that. We're going word by word on some of these policies that would clarify what can be taught, what can't be taught, which she's already said was basically South Carolina state standards. But the legislators have already signed a proviso saying that CRT will not be taught in the state of South Carolina this year, because they didn't have time to take up the whole session before they went out. But for this whole year, it's already been denied that it will not be taught in South Carolina. So we have that supporting us too.
And I know you said you were going to investigate this, but once again, I got last week from the guidance coordinator, the list of 3 specific DD2 resources that we're using for guidance curriculum. And Identifying opportunities for innovation and anti-racist practices, that's CRT. Discussing the impact of the pandemic and racial inequities, that is CRT. You know, it's by Black Lives racial justice reflected in the Black Lives Matter movement, word for word from the curriculum that I was given by the DD2 guidance counselor last week for the proposed 2021-2022 school plan. So it's already in there. It was for the whole guidance program curriculum, what she gave me. All 3 resources had clear and concise CRT ideologies inside of them. So if she read any of them and thought they weren't from CRT, then you've got to be blind, because it's clear in all 3 of them that it's riddled with it, and it's scheduled to be there for this school year.